It's time to learn what to talk about with a girl if you want to have successful conversations and create attraction. Your skill as a conversationalist is important because there's no better way to convey your personality to women, disarm their reservations and make them more comfortable around you, as well as let on to them what you're all about as a man. Boring conversations kill attraction, while fun and interesting ones spark intrigue and move things forward. That's why I'll show you some of the things to avoid when talking to women, as well as discuss the best practices of talking with girls, which increase attraction and also your chances of success. Because understanding what not to do is just as important as knowing what works, if you want to have awesome conversations. Before I show you how to chat with a girl successfully, let's talk about the bad stuff. Because if you do any of these things, you'll quickly ruin any chances you might have at a decent conversation. I'm not going to mention common sense stuff like, don't be a rude jerk. Instead, I'll mostly highlight things men often don't even realize they're doing wrong. 1. Stop trying to figure out the best things to say. First and most important of all, when you're in a conversation with a woman, don't focus on trying to find the best things to say to her. It's ridiculous how many men make this mistake and later live to regret it. They undermine themselves before they even begin. They never disagree, never say anything offensive and are afraid to ruffle feathers. This is incredibly boring and creates zero tension, which is necessary for attraction. Women eventually notice such behavior and all attraction dissipates immediately since they see you can't give them an honest opinion. That's because women don't like men who are trying too hard to please or impress them. And if a guy is constantly hesitating and questioning himself, trying his hardest not to say the wrong thing for fear of displeasing his date, it really shows. A guy like that gets labeled as a desperate doormat pretty quickly. And there's no coming back from it. So how do you avoid this mistake when figuring out what to talk about with a girl you like? Well, by accepting the fact that you'll never be able to please everyone you meet. Trying to do so will actually cause more harm than good, so there's no point in doing it. Besides, a little conflict is required to be challenging and to create strong attraction. Trying your hardest to never say anything wrong doesn't work since each woman is unique. So what may work on one may not necessarily work on another. If everyone behaved the same and responded similarly to your words, dating would be incredibly dull and boring. 2. Don't brag and stay humble. This is yet another huge mistake many guys make when conversing with women, especially those they find very attractive and want to sleep with. It's particularly cringe-inducing when the topic's about money. So let me make this clear once and for all. Unless you're with a gold digger or a prostitute who only wants you for your money and nothing else, then women don't really care how much cash you've got, as long as you're not a bum and can support yourself. Because it's not the things you own nor the size of your wallet that makes you an attractive man to women of quality. It's how you can make them feel when they're around you. As an example, a good friend of mine used to work as a bartender at a high-end bar, which lots of rich businessmen frequented. He also had a stunning, very intelligent and creative girlfriend who'd often pick him up after work. Those businessmen would gawk at her and constantly wonder what such a gorgeous girl could ever see in a guy who looks unassuming and makes in a year what most of them do in a week. They'd often flash their riches at her and get rejected hard. Those guys failed to realize that money makes no difference if you have the personality of a doorknob. So, when you're talking to women and you become the focus of the conversation, stay humble. Especially if you've achieved some very impressive things and are wealthy. Let them figure things out on their own because it'll be much more impactful if they piece together your impressive accomplishments themselves than if you actively try to flaunt your achievements yourself. You'll also seem much more accessible and attainable and they won't feel out of their element that way. 3. Stop interviewing women. Asking questions is the cornerstone of any conversation because they propel it forward and keep the momentum going. Many guys want to find out what to ask a girl when talking to her, but they often do it for the wrong reason. Namely, they're afraid they may run out of things to say. There's nothing wrong with learning some great questions to ask women to spice up your conversations. But when the whole thing devolves into an interview, it becomes excruciatingly boring for the girl, especially if you're making it obvious that you want to ask if the girl likes you. So don't make the same mistake that a lot of guys make. That is, the mistake of barraging women with questions, one after the other, in quick succession, without giving much thought to pursuing some topic further. A conversation is a two-way street and there has to be some back and forth between you and the girl you like. You'll have a hard time connecting with one another on a deeper level if you dominate the conversation with questions without delving deeper into the answers. and without letting her ask some questions of her own. This is especially agonizing for women if the questions are generic and dull. What do you do for a living? Where are you from? What school did you go to? What did you study? Yawn. If you want your conversation to go well, don't make it into an interview. Because that's never attractive and women will often lose interest in such topics quickly. At least make your questions more interesting and unique because they've heard all the standard ones a million times before, from every other guy.